Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MSA. Glad you could be here. We've got a kind of an interesting thing to talk about today, which is called the American Dream. Is it alive or is it dead? We're not sure. And that's a sad thing to say. Now, before we get started into this topic, standard thing's going to happen. I'm going to ask you to like, share, and subscribe. You know, that little like button, it's right down there. If you're on your phone, I know exactly where it is. It's right down there. Just click. There you go. But most of all, share. You got to share this video. We're a young channel trying to get our message out to as many people as we can. You know why. Not even going to go into it. We'll get into that a little bit later before we close out. Now let's get into the American Dream. Do you think the American Dream's alive and well, or do you think it's dead? Now, the American Dream, for what a lot of us were told when we were young, was the fact that we are to go to school, we're to get a good job, and get married, have kids, buy a home, get our houses paid off, have a decent retirement or a pension, and live out the rest of our lives in luxury and happiness and die and leave everything to our children and just keep going. And the cycle is endless, and it just keeps going and going and going. Now, when we look at the American Dream today, it seems that a lot of things have really changed in our country. You know, we don't have the factories or the mills or things that were here for the longest times. I mean, look at what's happened in Detroit. Look at how when the auto workers crashed years ago, when it all just fell apart and Detroit became this desolate, gloomy part of America, which was extremely sad to see. I mean, it's just amazing how when the industry went down, all these people were left without homes and jobs and things of that nature. And then now we get into, things have bounced back, but we're still really dependent on a lot of foreign commodities, which is sad. We don't have kids that can just leave school and not go on to college because they're not fortunate enough to go into college, and hopefully they can get a job in construction. We hear all these things about, there's so many people at work now and the unemployment rates are really low. We're going to get into that in just a second, but the employment rate's really low and all of that. And you're talking fast food and grocery. You're not talking where people are out living their dreams. People are being proud of things that they built or that they've done. This has all changed. I remember the big push in the 80s, see the beard? Big push back in the 80s when a lot of things were going overseas. And I remember one of the days that I was in the very early 90s, I was driving to work and GM was laying off 8,000 people that day. And the following day they were going to lay off another 8,000. And the day after that they were going to lay off another 8,000. And later that afternoon they announced that they were tripling their production for the AC Delco parts in India. And I thought, wow, that's the heartbeat of America right there. There you go, the heartbeat of America. So back to this American Dream. Do we have it? Are we going to have it? Is it going to come back? How are we going to get it back? Well, we're not going to get it back by depending on a lot of other foreign countries for our fuel and for our shoes and all these other things. But let's get talking into buying houses and stuff. We're going to roll a clip. There were some folks that were talking about the American Dream and how it pertains to buying houses and how some of the young people they're connected to feel about it. We're just going to go ahead and roll that for you real quick and let you see it, and we'll get back and talk about it in just a second. See you in a minute.
All right, well, more Americans say they're losing faith in the idea of the American Dream as the cost of owning a home becomes too much for many. A new report from ratings agency Fitch found U.S. properties are now selling for at least 10% above their actual value. And in a recent Wall Street Journal poll, just 36% of voters say the American Dream is still alive and well. That's down a staggering 32% from last year. Meanwhile, many of America's young adults are not even considering home ownership, thanks to high costs and inflation. In 1981, the average home buyer was 31 years old. Now, that average has jumped all the way up to 49 years old. Kim, at just 15.5% of homes for sale in 2023 were considered affordable for the typical U.S. household. Is the American Dream dead?
I have to tell you, Nicole, you said you have 3 little ones. So I have one son. He's 26. He just moved out here. He's in finance, real estate, investment banking. I talked to him and all of his colleagues and friends from school. Got a great education, did all the right things, was of service, got involved in charity, checked all the boxes, right? They all say they are so discouraged. He's 5 years away from that 31-year-old that you just said. He said, Mom, I will never, till I'm like 55, Griff's age, a young man, Griff, I love you, to be able to afford a home. I mean, and especially in LA, we were talking about interest rates, mortgages, the property taxes. Nicole, it's impossible, and that's discouraging.
It certainly is. And Griff, you know, you have a daughter going to college. You have one in graduate school. I mean, what does the future look like for them?
You know, I'm glad you asked me that, because it's really heartbreaking, this story, at the level of pessimism that young people are facing. And also, there was an NBC survey in a Wall Street Journal article related to this saying that less than 20% believe that the next generation is going to be better off. That's every parent's dream, that our children would have a better life and achieve the American dream faster than we did. And my late father, God love him, when I moved to D.C. as a young 20-something, he's like, you know, I was looking at places and he's like, you got to buy a house. I'm like, I don't want to buy a house. I had, you know, a little bit of money left over after college. He's like, you got to, you know, invest it. I'm going to invest it for you, or buy a house. Like, well, I'm going to buy a small place. Now, 25 years later, with 2 kids, 25 years of marriage, my wife and I paid our mortgage off a few years ago. Now we can do something maybe with that. And so there is still a relevant reason to believe in the American dream, and that anybody from any background can excel if you apply yourself and do many things. But now there's so much pessimism in the views of sort of what they can do in not buying a house that it's concerning.
Well, and Kaylee, so obviously affordability is a huge factor here, but there's also a cultural shift as well, where you have younger generations not actually wanting to go out and have that American dream, not looking for the mortgage. They want to perpetually rent.
Right. Well, in large part, it's because it's seen as inaccessible right now. That Wall Street Journal poll found that the disillusionment is especially pronounced among Gen Z, my generation, with just 28% of young adults saying that they believe that hard work is going to help them advance. And I get it. I'm one of those young adults who would love to buy her first home, but can't. Thank you, Joe Biden. And so this is part of the problem, is how do you convince younger adults to still work hard and to still pursue their dreams when they feel like they're inaccessible?
Okay, you got to see the clip. What'd you think of that? Some interesting words being said back and forth. The lady talking about how her son went to school and, you know, did charity work and checked all the boxes, and now is getting ready to come out of school and is getting very discouraged because it looks like, you know, being able to own a home, which also is probably chasing after some of the other dreams that come with it, owning the cars, owning the this, the that's. You know, the prices of things have gotten pretty high when it comes to a lot, especially when you start looking at this new market that we're supposed to be wanting to jump into, this EV market, you know, where cars went from 35,000 to 60,000 plus for these electric vehicles. And all these little incentives that sound smart aren't, where you get tax breaks and all this from having to, you know, you're not paying for fuel, you're charging at home, so they give you a reduction on your power bill and all of these things. And what happens when all of that runs out? You know, the kids of this generation are not dumb. And as you hear, this gentleman was talking about, there was a poll that was done, and less than 20% believe in the American dream anymore, that they'll prosper and hard. And you know, a lot of it has to do with the way technology is progressing. And of course, life's getting a lot simpler. We can do most things we need to from our phone. We don't need to be on our computer anymore. We can do our banking, our socialization. We can, you know, do just about anything you want on your phone that we used to have to depend on computers for. I could even be doing this segment on my phone. I wouldn't have to be using my computer. But the point being is we have these generations that are coming up right now. And a lot of these kids, they don't want to be techies. They don't want to go to college and get a degree. They don't want to work in the tech industry. They don't want to do that. Or they don't want to just be a nurse or a doctor or anything like that. Some of them want to work in the automotive industry. They want to work in the construction industries and all these things, but more and more technology seems to be forcing them into a certain direction. You know, I remember being a kid and we could build hot rods in, you know, our friend's dad's garage, and we could start, you know, tinkering around and learning how to do things like that. And nowadays, all these cars are all fueled by computers. So what happens when you don't have the software? That costs money. And where do you get the money? Well, you have to have a job. What kind of job do you have? Well, if you don't want to be a techie, where do you go from there? Go work at a warehouse? I recently heard that someone that has been working in a warehouse for a while, they don't qualify for a loan for an automobile, even though you go into a dealer and the dealer starts looking at all kinds of different financing options that you can have. And they went in looking for a car, and apparently working in a warehouse is not a sustainable place of employment because people, you know, jump ship so often. So they didn't look at them like they had a real job. And they weren't able to get financing to get themselves a new car, even though they make decent money. So there's those kinds of things can pop up. Now, I'm not here to be on a soapbox or look at life in doomsday, but one of the things that I am here is to make sense America. And as we're talking about this American dream, where is it going? Where's the future of the American dream? What is it? Is it to get a different president? I mean, because that's what everybody's really focused on right now. Is it to, you know, help defund or fund some organization out there? Is that what's being fueled by this lack of American dream? Now we're so bored we have to sit around in groups and talk about things so it all sounds great, and then we can all jump on a soapbox and start preaching about how we feel about something? Or is it the lack of interest that is really starting to bring the country down a little bit? I mean, you have all these kids out there that love video games and all that, this false sense of reality, you know, the way they can step out of the picture for a minute and go somewhere else and, you know, aside from, you know, doing a drug or anything of that nature, but they could be somewhere else doing something where they're invincible, where they feel more like they're accomplishing something because they can win in different levels or be the fastest racer or whatever it may be. I don't know. I'm speculating on all that. But it's just things that I see that I just bring into you. Maybe you can help me in the comments figure this out. The one thing I do understand, though, is that the American dream that was proposed to my generation, Generation X, is not the same American dream that's being proposed to the children of today's age. And I don't understand how we're going to fix it, but I do know that we do need to fix it, because the American dream is why a lot of people have come here from other countries to help put their ethnicities and their skills to work, to help build this culture that we call America and into something great and beautiful and wonderful. And what we've been seeing for the last several years is not something great, beautiful, and wonderful. There's a lot of controversy. And, you know, if you think about it long and hard, especially those of us that have kids, they see that. And they wonder, what's in it for them? What can they do? You know, they hear us talk about the economy going to crap and how we're all being pushed into buying these electric cars, and I'm not giving up my diesel truck, and who does this Joe Biden character think he is pushing all this garbage on us? And at the end of the day, are we really using our full capacities to help our kids advance into the best they could ever be so they can be and have better than we ever did? Isn't that our goal? And if it's not, if you don't have kids, I'm sure you know somebody that has kids, and you might be a better influence on them than their own parents are, because sometimes that's how things work as well. So make sure that you reach out and help other people figure this out. Now, true MSA fashion, we're going to sign off, but we're going to leave you with a clip on the way out the door. It has a little bit to do with how Joe Biden thinks his economy is running right now. And when a reporter asks him, and he's going to give that quick little answer, And you're going to hear a couple gentlemen that are going to talk about that for a moment. So do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. You know we need you to share. Keep sharing. We need you to share. It's a big, wonderful thing you can do for us. As a matter of fact, also hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. You still got time. The video is still going to roll for another couple minutes, all right? Other than that, I hope you're having a great day, night, morning, whatever it is, wherever you're at. And just remember, we love you all, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode. So hang in there. We're going to go ahead and leave you with this clip. So have a great one. See you later.
President Biden says he's not happy with the media's negative coverage of the economy. Oh, no. Roll tape.
About the economy, sir, what's your outlook on the economy next year? All good. Take a look. Start reporting it the right way.
Start reporting it the right way. But a recent Fox poll found that, guess what, 46% say his administration has hurt them financially. Maybe the media is just reporting what the consumers are telling them. Brian Bremberg, great to see you this morning, Brian, joining me for the whole hour. It's great to have some company. Brian, is the White House that detached from reality?
Well, the White House has bubble wrapped this president. That's the idea. If you can detach him from reality, then he can say what he just said with 100% conviction because he has no idea. And here's why that's really important, because if you were to actually give Americans some relief, you'd have to roll back everything Biden is doing. You'd have to roll back everything the left is doing. You'd have to roll back the green spending. You'd have to roll back the green regulations. You'd have to change the spending picture in the government. If you did that, we, the consumers, might actually feel like next year could be a good year. But because the president doesn't know that and he's bubble wrapped, he can say what the left needs him to say, which is just hang on tight. We're going to be okay.
Just a puppet with people pulling the strings.